Kia ora e te whānau. Welcome to tonight's Korero Live. For those who may not know me, ko nika hau. I'm a part of the NZSDRT whānau as your communications liaison, and I'm really honoured to be holding space tonight for this Korero. I just want to say from the start that this session is not about having all the answers. It's more about opening up the conversations that I think that we've been feeling for a while now. Because tonight we're not just talking about what we do, we're talking about where we're going as a profession. If we're honest, many people still see us as the activities team, and that really does cook our biscuits, doesn't it? Comments such as, when you finish playing games, can you da-da-da-da-da? And yes, that's part of our history here in Aotearoa. That's part of how diversional and recreational therapy was built. But the question we want to be considering is, are we bigger than that now? And are we ready to step into that? To help us unpack this, I am thrilled to be joined by someone who brings a different lens to this korero. Charlene here has previously served as Vice President of the New Zealand Diversional and Recreational Therapy Society and now works in a leadership space, not necessarily on the floor running the day-to-day activities, but still very much practicing and influencing how care is delivered. And I think that's exactly why this conversation is important, because it shows that our practice doesn't stop in the activity room. So Charlene, welcome. Really good to have you here.
Kia ora, Nika. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. What makes this conversation important to me is that many of us still connect our practice to a physical space, such as activity room, the program, the daily schedule. Now, since moving into my role as a career progression specialist, I've come to understand something quite significant. Our practice is not defined by where we work, but by how we think, assess, and engage with people. Even though I'm no longer facilitating activities on the floor, I'm still drawing on the same knowledge, skills, frameworks every single day, just applied in a different context. And that's what I'm here hoping to unpack tonight, how our practice translates beyond traditional roles and the value that brings.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. So let's just ground this first, just to give a bit of context. Now, globally, outside of New Zealand, our profession is known as therapeutic recreation. Practitioners are called recreational therapists, and internationally, you'll hear titles like Certified Therapeutic Recreation Specialists, or CTRS. And these CTRSs, they've featured in our conferences the last couple of years, and so we've gotten to know a bit of that that titleage, if you like. Now, here in Aotearoa, we've developed, or we've held on to, diversional therapy, and now diversional and recreational therapy. And that acknowledgement, it carries a lot of deep history and pride. If you look at the society's history, if you go through that part of our documentation, it's been hard fought to even just gain that title. So just to be clear, this korero is not about removing that. It's not about trying to hide that history, anything like that. It's about asking the question, how do we honor our roots while also stepping into where the world is going? Because there is a remit coming to the AGM this year, and this is something that we all need to understand and be a part of. So let's really have that conversation with preparation and an open mind as much as we can. Charlene, did you have anything to say on that? Like, why do you think this conversation is important?
I think it's really important to say that this conversation is not just about changing a name. It's about how we position ourselves as a profession, both here in Aotearoa and globally. When we align with terms like therapeutic recreation, we connect to an international standard of practice. And that opens up opportunities for recognition, collaboration, and growth. But I also understand that change can be very uncomfortable. At the same time, diversional and recreational therapy has a strong history here, and that absolutely matters. So this isn't about letting go of that identity. It's about strengthening it. It's about saying, this is where we started, and this is where we are capable of going.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. I think that is where people are feeling a little bit unsure. Maybe they feel like we're actually losing something. But as you've said, actually, what we're doing is building on what we already have.
Yeah.
If we were to talk about the reality, when people hear about what we do, they automatically think aged care. Most of our practitioners, they work in rest homes, in daycare centres for the elderly, those kaumatua spaces. But our skills definitely go far beyond that, don't they?
That's true, Nika. For me, the shift really became clear when I stepped into my role as a career progression
Mm,
specialist at MetLife Care. At first, I questioned whether I was still doing diversional and recreational therapy because
mm,
I wasn't delivering programs directly anymore. But what I realized was I wasn't stepping away from my practice. I was expanding it. The
mm,
same foundation still guided my practice. I assess, but now I assess workforce capability, learning needs. I
mm,
still plan, but I design training pathways and development strategies. I implement, but that I do it through coaching, mentoring, and supporting our staff into developing skills and knowledge that is relevant for their respective roles. I
mm,
evaluate, looking at outcomes, competency, and quality improvement. I still document in terms of reporting, recording, ensuring accountability and consistency. So the applied
mm,
process hasn't disappeared, it evolved. What I have also brought into my role is the core of our practice:
mm,
person centered thinking, strength based approaches, understanding behavior and motivation, and building meaningful relationships. The difference is I now apply this not just to the residents, but to staff, learners, and
mm,
services. And the benefits, they are very clear here: stronger workforce capability,
mm,
improved quality of care, increased staff's confidence, better consistency in person centered practice. That's when it really clicked for me. Our practice is not confined to the activity room. It is
mm.
transferable skill set that allows us to move into leadership, education, and wider system influence.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's really powerful. What I really like hearing about your role is, it's, as you say, it's not just influencing the residents, it's a layer further than even that. You're shaping how different practitioners see the work. And then if whether they stay in that current role or move on into other places, you've had a significant influence over the other places that they end up. So in essence, you're affecting even more residents, more clients through that mahi that you're doing, Charlene, and that's fantastic. I had a similar, I wouldn't say similar experience, but moving from being the DT to moving into educating DTs, you sort of feel like, oh, am I losing that part of myself professionally, that face to face? Yeah, but it's not. What you're
Yeah,
doing is actually being able to support the clients even more so, because our practitioners, they go on to work in all sorts of places, and
yeah,
if we can change how they see the mahi and how they interact with clients, then we're able to influence not just one facility but the nation of aged care, mental health care, anywhere where you see recreational therapy.
yeah.
And it really does highlight that our practice is not tied to a room. It's not tied to a wardrobe full of balloons or anything like that. It is a way of thinking and a way of working. That's what we're about.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, how do we start to move? What does it actually mean for us as part of the society? You know, diversional therapy is the term. So if we move toward recreational therapy or therapeutic recreation, which is where the society is sort of wanting to head, what actually changes?
What changes, Nika, is not the heart of what we do, but
Mm,
how we are seen, how we see ourselves out there. We remain grounded in connection. We still understand people, continue
mm,
to have meaningful engagement. That doesn't change, it's still there. But aligning with therapeutic recreation allows us to position our work as contributing to broader health and well being outcomes.
mm,
In my role, this has helped me clearly articulate the value of our skills beyond activities into workforce development, service quality, and outcomes based practice. It also
Mm,
removes limitations. I think a lot of people have self doubts here. We can do more than what we are doing on the floor at the moment. We are no longer defined by one setting or one role. Instead, we become part of a global profession with impact across multiple areas.
mm,
So the shift is not about changing what we do, it's about recognizing the full value of what we already bring.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, nice. Can I ask, Charlene, in your time working in the field of recreational therapy, have you seen progress toward the shift we're aiming for?
Absolutely. I think gaining a diversional recreational therapy qualification doesn't
Mm,
limit you to work only in the aged care. I think there are a lot of other sectors where you can take your skills and
mm,
it's not about having a particular designation of that role. That qualification will contribute towards you taking up some other roles that will contribute in a similar way. You
mm,
still share the same set of skills, the knowledge. You're still working with clients, but probably, and in some sectors, this terminology may change and what you bring to that role.
mm,
Obviously, there are a lot of sectors. I think where we at a time we are at the moment placed as a lot of sectors do value what we
mm,
bring to the team.
mm,
Um, and the names may change, the roles may differ, but the skills you acquired through your experience, through the qualifications you have completed, it still stays with you, and you can take this to greater lengths.
yeah, nice. I love that. I love it. Okay, would it be okay to ask you to share if you've had an experience where you've felt that your role in diversional therapy has maybe been minimized or undervalued?
I think that's like I've been in this aged care sector working for the past 20 years, and I started working as activities coordinator.
Mm,
And I think there was one time I didn't understand the full value. I had not done a
mm,
qualification at that stage, um, and I just went with the flow.
mm,
So obviously, the lack of awareness at that time was greater until obviously I came across a person who guided me to do a qualification. I
mm,
completed, I moved around in my days from village or organization to organization, doing activities. And that kind of gave me the exposure and a better understanding of what this role is about.
mm,
Um, and that gave me a bit of a strength in the system to understand, okay, this role is equally important, because at that time I think other clinical roles were more significant and
mm,
are more given more recognition compared to the GT role that we played. And obviously after a time, I think I'm not going to talk about where I felt devalued or anything like that, but I think there was one time where I took up a position in a well-recognized organization, and I think my manager gave me that freedom to do things the way it
mm,
should be done. She had full faith in me. She allowed me the space, the time. She was just there, full hand supporting, and whatever
mm,
the programs were put together, the planning, the execution. I had full support of the entire team, and obviously it was not easy.
mm.
I had to gel well with the team.
Yeah.
It's a give and take relationship. You can't expect go onto the floor and expect everybody to come together straight away. It doesn't work like this. It is a
Mm,
give and take relationship. You're working with
mm,
the wider clinical team here. So obviously, understanding each role was important. It was also important how the FANU plays a bigger picture here as well, because obviously we forget that part when we have residents in care. Some residents have their whānau visiting all the time, some
mm,
don't. So that is where, as diversional recreational therapists, we play a bigger role.
Yeah.
So I think I was a valued team member at that place, and it gave me a boost to my confidence, my self-esteem.
Mm,
I became more aware about the role. Attending all the conferences over the past
mm,
years
mm,
boosted that as well, and gave me different perspective as well, because when you go meet the people who work in a similar role, probably in other fields or other sectors or organization, it kind of allows you to understand your role's importance in a bigger
mm,
way.
mm,
So building those relationships was significant. Obviously there are times you feel lonely. We all have
yes.
felt lonely. We could be one
Mm,
person working in that particular place, but I always, like I say, if you allow yourself to be feeling lonely, that is only going to happen. It's also important to be
mm.
bold, to make the choice and speak up when it's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's yeah. It's it makes such a difference when you do have that supportive management team that does see what can be done with recreational therapy and the influence it can have, and having that freedom and the support to attend professional development opportunities. It helps you feel empowered and professional in your role,
Yeah.
having that recognition from your management. So that's awesome. Unfortunately, not everyone does get that, but when we do, it makes such a difference. Oh, excuse me. Got a tickle in my throat. There's been a couple of experience. Actually, it's a pretty common experience where we've had people working in the activities roles in facilities, and then something happens and it's a short staffed day, and all of a sudden they're asked, "Oh, can you go work in the kitchen instead? Can you help with this instead?" So the role sort of gets it's seen as a bit like a chameleon role, can be
Yeah.
changed to suit the needs. Could you talk about how you think that impacts the professionalism of our roles?
I think I thought it is gone now. I thought it's no longer looked as a chameleon role, where you are
Mm,
asked by your manager to stop, drop everything that you're doing and just take over another role that is probably impacted.
mm. It's definitely getting better, but I have heard a few whispers that it's still happening in some places, mostly in the rest homes than other facilities. Yeah.
It will be happening in a smaller rest homes, and
Yeah.
it will continue to happen because I think these are the places which probably don't have um, they don't have probably the funding, or they don't want to
Mm,
use that
mm,
in a way to replace the staff who has probably called in sick or is gone away on a leave, and they treat the role of an activities coordinator or divisional therapist as it's not important. It is like
mm.
when it suits the purpose. That's how the
Yeah.
importance is and the value is given. Like say if there's an audit coming up, the management will
Mm,
take every left, right, and center to bring the roles up to date,
yes.
making sure there is a kitchen hand, there is a chef in the kitchen or cook, having activities coordinator on the floor running the show. They will have the caregivers there, registered nurse, and everything. But when nobody
Mm,
is looking, they like to do the things their way.
yeah.
But in bigger organization, this is not something that is done. I think
Mm,
the roles are given the equal opportunity and the value that the role brings to the team.
mm,
I think today's generation is well more aware, and
mm,
also our residents, family and whānau, they're more aware of how care home functions, what
mm,
roles are for, and what they bring, what benefits it brings to their loved ones when they are in care.
mm,
So I think there are people who are raising question, and I think the bigger thing here is that management are also aware that there are people watching, and
mm,
this could be something that is well discussed during their interactions when they have family catch-ups, and obviously each organization runs a survey, and that survey
mm,
could be going separately for residents, their families, the staff, and everybody
mm,
has the right to say how they are feeling And that is the opportunity for them to put it out there. But yeah, obviously, when we talk about smaller restaurants, and from experience, my first job, I started as activities coordinator slash caregiver in a small
Mm.
restaurant. And it is true, we did everything.
Yeah.
I did activities, I did cares, I did laundry, cleaning, and the day there's no cook, I stepped into the
Woof.
cooking.
Mm.
So I've been there, done it. It's not that I haven't seen that. I have actually been through it.
Mm.
But yeah, once the opportunity came for me to take big a jump from what I was doing, when I got that opportunity, I took it. And I knew there is always some better opportunities out there. It's only about
Mm.
taking that leap of faith.
Mm.
And I did it at a time. And I think after that, I never came across working over this last 20 years. I think out of that 15 years that I moved out of that place, I never saw anywhere that this practice was still like done. Yeah, obviously, I have seen in bigger organization, maybe there's not a laundry person, then their caregivers have their choice. If they want to extra
Mm.
hours, they take the opportunity to do it. But
Mm.
it's a choice that you make for
Mm.
extra hours. So nobody is forcing you. You can make that choice, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's a great shift to see happening. It's thank you for sharing your personal experience with that too. That adds a lot of power to what you're saying. And I like what you mentioned about when the opportunity came, you took it and you pursued it. And look at where you are now, which is
Yep.
it's so inspiring that people that might be stuck in, well, maybe they don't feel stuck, but in a situation of, hey, your job can be flexible and moved around to suit the needs. But when you're passionate about recreational therapy, it can be disheartening. And of course, we want to be team players, and there's a lot of good skills in being flexible like that. But those opportunities to be able to focus on our passion and our field for the interest of our clients, it's good to keep an eye out on that. And that's where this becomes really exciting, this whole shift, because it changes how we're perceived, where we can go with our roles, like in prisons, in youth work, in all of these different avenues. But we got to keep an eye out for those opportunities, and then all of a sudden we'll look back and we won't be limited anymore, even
It's true.
10, 20 years down the track.
Yep.
Completely different perspective on our roles. So how do we start that mindset? Because it starts with us, doesn't it? That's what your experience was. You looked for the opportunity, valued your role enough to then pursue that. So how what would be your advice?
I think one of the biggest barriers we face is how we see ourselves, I think. I often
Mm.
hear people say, I just run activities. But when you
Mm.
break that down, what they are really doing is facilitating connection,
Mm.
supporting a person's identity and autonomy, responding to their emotional and behavioral needs, contributing to well-being outcomes. These are highly transferable skills. When I recognized that and applied it in my own role, it changed how I showed up, not just as a practitioner, but as a leader, as an educator here. We are not just saying we are professionals who assess and analyze. We are not just saying like anything. We are here as professionals who assess and analyze, plan and design,
Mm.
influence, lead, educate, and support. And when we start to see ourselves that way, others do too. So this is not just
Mm.
a name change; it's a mindset shift,
Mm.
and that's what I think we're here for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we gotta value it ourselves and then make other people see the value. Because as you say, people can easily dismiss what they do as, oh, I just I
Yeah,
hate that word, just. I just
yeah,
run activities. I just work in a rest home. No, you run activities and you support people through recreation. You improve quality of life. That's what you're
that's
doing.
true.
So it's more than just a name. It's so much more than that. We're not just wanting to change a name to keep up with the popular titles around the world. We're wanting to start to identify that change in mindset to show our value for our own profession And then slowly, because it starts with us and it has for the whole history of diversional and recreational therapy, it started with the practitioners saying, no, we want a qualification, we want a formal society, we want a title, we want a pay raise. And these things start to happen. So if we want to be seen as professionals, which we are, as you said, Charlene, we have to see ourselves as that too.
Yeah.
Now, with all that said, we've done lots of talking. So for everyone listening in, we want to leave you with just a couple of questions just to reflect and meditate on for yourself. Even comment what you've come up with in your reflections. Where do you see your practice going? And is it in a different sector? Is there a dream you have? Is there a goal? Is there a title? Is there a type of leadership role you would like? What do you want? Where do you see your practice going? Another thing to consider is, are you open to stepping beyond aged care? I remember when I first started, I felt quite safe working in aged care because not that I'm promoting this as a thought pattern, but something I would say is, well, fortunately, if I'm working in the dementia unit and an activity doesn't go very well, they're not going to remember. And for me, it was a bit of a safety net in my mind. So there is definitely a lot of learning involved in, am I willing to go beyond aged care? I've learnt to do it in aged care. Most of us have. But am I willing to try with a different age group, with a different set of needs, maybe in brain injury, for instance? And a third consideration that I'd like everyone to think about is, what does growth look like for you? Is it measured in recognition? Is it measured in remuneration? What is growth in our field and for you personally in your development? What does that look like? Charlene, did you have anything to add to that?
I think the key message I'd like to leave today with everyone is our profession is already evolving, and many of us are already practicing beyond traditional boundaries. Like you said, that are you willing to step beyond aged care? I think if people look out there, we have, I know of someone who worked as a diversional therapist, who started her journey as a caregiver and other roles, but today she works as a assistant village manager. So I know people who have gone into working in the prison. People are delivering activities in mental health. So the world is your oyster. You need to just look for the right fit. And if I look at in my role as a career progression specialist, it's not that I am in this role just like straight from there. There has been a journey. There has been significant milestones, constant upskilling yourself, education, professional development is the key here. You don't stop learning. You need to have a goal. If you're feeling satisfied where you are, then you might not be considering about moving beyond that area. You probably find your own comfort there, and that's why you are too scared of leaving that. But as a career progression specialist, I didn't leave my practice behind. I built on it. I integrated my skills, my knowledge into a different space, and the impact became broader across staff, system, and outcomes. So wherever you are right now, your skills are relevant, they are transferable, and they are needed. But there is also room to grow. This is an invitation to think bigger, step beyond what feels familiar, and explore what is possible. Because the future of this profession isn't fixed. It's something we are building together. It has been a journey. If people who have been associated with this role, where did it start from? When was the society formed and all of it? So it has come a long way. So if you get together, put a mindset and think about carefully, how can we make things better for the next generation as well? Because we are here to stay. So I think it's about building the profession in a way that it is a significant impact, even if it is 50 years later.
Great reminders. Thank you so much, Charlene. Your passion for our field is very evident. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. Ngā mihi nui whānau. And this is just the beginning of the Korero. We're starting the groundwork to have these conversations. And as we move toward our upcoming AGM and the conference in Atutahi, Christchurch, we invite you to stay, ask questions, and be part of the shaping where we go next and where we want to go next. Because this is not just a board decision. This is our profession together. We want your input, and we want to know where our practitioners feel we should stand. He waka e ke noa, we're all in this together. Ngā mihi, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.